Hasta la vista, baby. Hey everyone, I'm back. And if you like that intro, let me know anywhere you can find me. And if you didn't guess already, I'm going to be talking about Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Possibly my favorite movie ever. And I'm super excited to talk about this movie because A, it's one of my favorites, possibly my favorite ever. And two, there's nothing really good coming out this weekend, and I'm not seeing Jigsaw. So I'm going to talk about Terminator 2 instead. So let's get into the plot of the movie if you don't know already. If you've never seen this movie, I don't think I'm going to do spoilers here. So as far as I'm concerned, you're safe. So the plot for Terminator 2 Judgment Day is ultimately the same as the first one, only this movie takes place in 1995, and they send back a Terminator to terminate John Connor as I believe he's like 10 years old, or maybe 11. I'm not sure, but he's one of the two, and so now that there's a Terminator back here, sent back in time, the Resistance sends back another Terminator to protect John Connor, and that's the basic things that are similar to the first one, only a little bit different. And I'm just gonna stop right here because even though I'm pretty sure everyone knows this movie and has seen it, I'm just going to get into my positives because there's a ton of great things about this movie, and I don't think I'm going to be able to cover them all because there's so many good things. So I'm going to do my best to get every last positive I possibly can. So let's get started. As usual, let's start off with all of the performances, and everyone's great in this movie. There's not one single bad performance in this movie that I don't like. And everyone works perfectly in this movie. And Arnold Schwarzenegger is great. Edward Furlong is great. Linda Hamilton is great. Robert Patrick as the T-1000 is great. There's not one single performance in this movie that I found to be below everyone else, even like slightly. Now let's get into how this movie is different from the first film. If you've seen my review for the first movie, then you would know that I really love that movie. I have some problems with it, but they're not that big of a deal, but they just kind of bothered me. But in here, I would say this is an improvement over the last film. The action is a lot better. It's not like the first one where it was kind of difficult to see. It knew exactly how it needed to be, and James Cameron really knew how to handle this material with the sequel. And I haven't seen Aliens, but as far as a sequel goes, this is probably his best sequel. I'm not sure if this is his best movie. I haven't seen all of his films, but as of right now, this is James Cameron's best film to date. And I really liked I really love what he did with this movie. Lots of great action scenes. There's a ton of time dedicated to the characters, more than the villain. And let's just get this out of the way really quick. And I really love that this movie isn't exactly like not so much as the first film where it was kind of a horror movie. This movie has more of a comedic side to it, and it really worked in this movie. It's not like a Marvel movie where there's like constantly jokes coming out of actors' mouths. So, while I'm not saying that I don't enjoy the MCU, I'm just saying that that's how it is. This movie is comedic because mostly with the Terminator, the T-800. And there's a lot of great one-liners in this movie, and I love the awkward smile in this movie. That never gets old to me. I can do that all day, and it would never get old, or even the rest of my life. It never gets old. Now, I'm going to talk about Sarah Connor in this movie because I haven't really gotten into her, and in the last movie, there are some things I forgot to mention, but I'm going to try to get them here. And Sarah Connor in the last movie was more or less the audience character. She was likable, you wanted her to survive, and she was great. But in this movie, she's very much like Kyle Reese was. And she's also realizing that it's eventually going to happen, Judgment Day. I believe the original date was, it was 1997. I forgot the exact date. But I remember the year. Now back to Sarah Connor. Some people are kind of iffy with her in this movie, with how she is like not as likable and kind of cruel to John Connor, but I don't see that at all, because if you saw in like the few dream sequences that she has, she knows that eventually this Judgment Day is going to happen, and she has to protect John Connor as much as she can. Not because of something that happened in Terminator 3. I'll get into that later when I review that movie, but let's stay on T2 right now. And what she does is try to protect him as much as she can, and she eventually goes after Miles Dyson, and well, before she kills him, she realizes that she's kind of becoming a Terminator in a very subtle way, and it's very fantastic in how it's executed. It's executed in a way that allows you to understand what's happening, but it's not to the point where you don't understand anything that's happening. It's a perfect balance between the two. And John Connor in this movie, let's get to him. He kind of starts off as just an average teenager, like kind of getting into like how do I say this? He's kind of a person who doesn't really care about anything. He doesn't really believe that Judgment Day is going to happen, and he thinks his mom is crazy. And once the Terminator shows up, he realizes that what she was doing was actually true, and was like, oh, holy crap. She was right the entire time, and he kind of hated her for certain things, but he now understands why Sarah Connor did all these things. And it was great. And I'm going to continue on talking about the characters. Robert Patrick as the T-1000 is so good in this movie. He's exactly what he needed to be, and he's fantastic. And the number one thing I love about these action sequences involving the T-1000 and the T-800, no dialogue. No dialogue between the two. It just gets right to the point. They're fighting, and it's not too quick where you will leave the action scene unsatisfied, but it's also not too stretched out to where you get bored. It's the perfect length. Let's talk about the pacing in this movie. Holy crap, this movie is very well paced. It feels like there's not one single dull moment in the entire movie. This movie is 2.5 hours long, and it feels like it's 30 minutes. I don't know how he did it, James Cameron, but he did it. I don't know how. And I believe this was the most expensive movie made at the time. This movie came out in 1991, And I think the budget for this movie was like 108 million or something. At the time, that was huge, and I think it worked out great. The effects in this movie still look good, especially the T-1000. The music in this movie is great. I almost forgot to mention it, but the music is fantastic. I think it's better than the first movie and the best in the entire series. It's very, for myself, iconic. And that opening scene where the opening credits, sorry, uh, I could watch it all day or all day, the rest of my life, and it would never get old because this movie is so great. The music fits perfectly, and the action is great. The characters are great. The pacing is great. The way everything is framed is great. The cinematography is great. Now, before I finish, I just need to talk about the ending. I've watched this movie so many times, like when I was a kid. More on that maybe later, but after all of these years, the ending finally made me tear up. It takes a lot for me to tear up in a movie. I think the only other movie that made me tear up was Deepwater Horizon and Patriots Day, I believe. There's that. Finally happened. After so long, it finally happened. Now back to me watching this as a kid. I did. I watched this movie as a kid, as well as the first one, and you might be thinking, isn't there things that kids shouldn't be watching? Especially the especially one scene in particular in the first film. I didn't understand what that was or what was happening, so I just left that scene confused of what was happening because I didn't learn anything about that at the time. And also, another thing is, I think I watched this movie on TV and it was censored for the first time, so I was safe. But Terminator 2 doesn't, I don't think I saw it on TV at first. This movie, yeah, I believe I watched it uncensored and I was fine with it. I survived. It's not, there's nothing like super gory in this movie or anything really gory at all. At least in this movie. Therefore, I was fine. In the end, I absolutely love Terminator 2 Judgment Day. I think it's one of the greatest movies ever made in basically every way. And I'm going to give Terminator 2 Judgment Day an A+. And I am so happy that still holds up to this day, and it's fantastic. Thank you as always for watching. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to leave a like or comment down below what you thought of Terminator 2 Judgment Day, because there's a ton of things to talk about. And if I didn't get everything, then sorry. There's just so many things. I doubt I got everything. But if there's something you want to discuss, let me know down below. And follow me on Twitter. A link for that will be in the description below. And subscribe to be a part of Foley Nation. And I'll see you when I get my next review up. It was probably, I'm for sure, eventually it's going to be Terminator 3. Eventually I'll get that. Oh boy. But anyways, thanks for watching and have a great day.